Welcome to the Lounge Lizards podcast. It's so good to have you here. It's a leisure and lifestyle podcast founded on our love of premium cigars, as well as whiskey, travel, food, work, and whatever else we feel like getting into. My name is Gizmo. Tonight I'm joined by Rooster, Senator Pagoda, and Bam Bam. And our plans to smoke a cigar, drink some whiskey, talk about life, and of course, have some laughs. So take this as your 104th official invitation to join us and become a card-carrying lounge lizard. Plan to meet us here once a week. We're going to smoke a New World cigar tonight, share our thoughts on it, and give you our formal lizard rating. We discuss Rocky Patel's unique story and extensive product line. We try a whiskey from a nearby distillery. Pagoda goes back to Toronto, and we debate entering Rooster into a slow smoking competition, all among a variety of other things for the next 2 hours. So sit back, get your favorite drink, light up a cigar, and enjoy as we pair Hillrock double cask rye whiskey with the Rocky Patel ALR second edition in Robusto. Our first Halloween episode tonight on the pod, featuring a Nicaraguan Robusto of the aged, limited, and rare varieties, especially for our friend Rooster here.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite marca of all. I mean, I really go out of my way for this marca. It's fabulous.
Tonight on the pod, the Rocky Patel ALR second edition Robusto.
Smoked so many of these.
It's a Nicaraguan 50 ring gauge.
I have boxes.
By 5.5 inches long. And boys, it is completely covered by bands and information.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Well, it's being protected.
That's a nice way to put it.
It's aged, it's limited, and it's rare.
You don't say.
And it's unsmokable.
Don't say
I
that.
shouldn't say
Not
that.
true.
You shouldn't
might
say
be,
that.
I might be pleasant.
We might be surprised. You know, we've had some real surprises on the podcast, especially
It's true.
Keeping an open mind.
in the last 20 episodes. I would say, namely the one that really stands out for me, because since we recorded it, I've smoked it so much, is that Oliva V. the Lancero.
It's tremendous.
I've got those for $5.50 from Atlantic, and they have been, every one of them has been better than the last. So,
yeah.
might be a good one tonight.
Who has had this cigar before? Pagoda?
Yes,
You have?
I have.
I've had it once.
Oh, you have?
Years and years ago.
Yeah, at our former lounge.
Yeah, prior to getting into.
What was your first impression? Did you like it?
Honestly, I liked it. It was, it to me, this is like the precursor to the Exclusivo. It's like the 2-3 steps behind it. It's serviceable, decent. It's got a decent flavor profile.
Exclusivo meaning?
Padron.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like
it's kind of like that.
I told
No,
you.
no.
I told you he never smokes that cigar. He didn't even know what it is.
he has no idea.
Well, I don't know if you're talking about a.
He smoked one in 1910 though.
I think you're talking about a Rocky Patel exclusive.
No.
I have no idea what they
No,
make.
this is like a precursor, like I don't know, a distant, very distant cousin of that cigar.
That's fair.
Yeah.
We'll see how it does.
Is that why you bought boxes of these?
I did buy 2 boxes maybe 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
7
You
years
bought
ago.
2 boxes of these?
I liked it.
All right,
Wow.
good.
I liked it enough.
I have hope.
Wow.
Well,
I'm
I was
sorry,
no. I was
Wow.
fairly a novice back then, guys. Please.
You still are.
We're all learning.
I'm sorry. The only thing I have to point out before we take all the bands off so we can actually see the cigar,
Speak for yourself,
the
Rooster.
gigantic footband
Yeah.
that talks about how aged this cigar is. It says age for 2 years as if this is like
As if
some crazy amount of age. It's like a standard Padron Exclusivo's got 4 years of age. Why is that a big deal?
right
And
off
his
the-
brother, Nish, who I guess is the creative director, or like the marketing retail person over there, Nish Patel, says that Rocky puts 2 years, but it's actually a little more than that. But he doesn't want to oversell it. I saw that quote. He doesn't want to oversell it.
Interesting.
All right, boys, well, let's take the footband off.
You can pull it straight off if it's loose. By the
All
way.
right, it came right off. That's good. Wow, that is a big piece of paper. So it talks about the beginning of the cigar, 2016. Rocky blended a cigar featuring the San Andres Mexican wrapper, ordered short production run of 120,000 cigars, and then they laid them to rest for 2 years. And this is the second edition of this cigar. So we'll see what we get.
I'm good. Let's rate it.
No.
Let's cut this thing, boys. See, we're
just
getting on the cold draw on the wrapper.
I just have to say, taking the footband off, it's actually not a bad looking cigar.
It's actually a really nice cigar.
I
If it
really-
just had the gold Rocky Patel band,
It'd be 1,000 times better.
it'd be so much better.
I don't know why they put this on. This is actually a good looking cigar.
The wrapper smells pretty good.
It does,
Yeah.
and it looks really nice.
It's actually
It's a San Andres wrapper.
Very nice. It's delicious.
It's got a subtle box press to it, which is also nice. I'm into it, man. I'm feeling hopeful. Smells really good.
I wouldn't call it a subtle box press.
You're gonna like it. I think you're gonna like this, Giz.
I hope so. What were you
I
saying,
think
Rooster?
it's pretty well box pressed. It's not that subtle.
It's more pressed than the Exclusivo is.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or almost.
Almost.
Cold draw, I'm getting that dried fruit figgy thing that we get on a lot of the Nicaraguan cigars.
I can't stand the band. I don't like the design. I don't like the color.
The gold ALR.
It's awful.
Yeah. I guess it's not even gold. It's like copper.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, copper.
All right, boys, let's light this thing. The Rocky Patel ALR, second edition Robusto. Again, it's a 50 ring gauge cigar by 5.5 inches long. Classic Robusto size, of course. Again, it has a Mexican San Andres wrapper on it from Rocky's factory in Esteli. Also some tobacco in here from Jalapa. But primarily Nicaraguan tobacco, but it has the Mexican wrapper on it. So we'll see how it does tonight. All jokes aside, I am optimistic, especially when these came in. I was really, really impressed with how they looked and smelled.
A nice presentation, too.
Yeah,
right?
the presentation was pretty good.
Honestly,
we'll
they
see.
look good.
What's the price point?
These are around $11, $10-11. Which I think is on the higher end of his offering, aside from maybe the...
Wait a minute. We're welding steel over here.
Yeah, sorry.
Is that another lighter that's taking off to Mars?
No, because every time I lower it, then it doesn't just burn. Like, I need some good lighters. This is a...
You need a welding mask for that thing, dude.
I don't remember what episode that was on, but I was laughing editing
know.
that when Senator goes, Pagoda's going to be on Mars.
Yeah, he's got the thrusters on. Like, Jesus.
This is how it should be.
This is good off the light. You have to admit.
It is good. It is good.
Senator's skeptical, but I like it.
The flavor I'm getting is just very muted.
My draw is a little tighter than I'd like.
Oh, dude. Mine's wide open, and that's a testament to its inconsistency.
My cigar is pretty tight,
Wow.
which is, I don't know the last time I said that on a New World episode.
Also on a box press.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I feel like if there's one draw that is reliably open, it's almost anything box pressed.
Yeah, I'm not really getting much on the light.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you cut an exclusive or you light up a Padron,
That's
you
different.
get that
It's different.
cocoa and like it's a cocoa bomb, but not, I mean, I don't know.
It's
We'll
differente.
see what happens.
I think this has been aged a bit too long.
So I've had these in my humidor now for about 8 weeks. So they've definitely had time to acclimate. They came in a little wet, I felt, when I got them from the retailer, but I pulled them out and brought them down. So I think these are definitely closer to...
You know what we should have done with this cigar? We should have poured water on this before we smoked it.
We should do it now.
This would have been the one cigar that I would have been perfectly fine with that.
This is true.
I'm getting some interesting flavor. It's definitely spice forward for me,
Oh, right now, I'm getting pretty good spice.
but not a tatuaje type of, for me, it's not an unpleasant spice. Like,
That's white pepper.
yeah,
maybe?
a little white pepper, but it's not biting me, you know?
No,
Kind of agree. Actually, my draw is fantastic.
mine
so.
too.
I'm just getting white pepper and earth.
Definitely earth, a little cocoa for me.
Like-
I'm getting a little cocoa.
I
And
get coffee.
not like green earth, like dirt.
soil.
And I'm not saying that to be fun, like
Petrichor.
legitimately
Petrichor.
like soil.
Smoke output's really good.
I think there's a danger in smoking this too quickly.
Oh yeah, I
No
think
doubt
this is
about it.
gonna, I think if this heats up, it's gonna bite you. So Rocky Patel has a long, long history and a lot of cigars. I mean, when we talk about how many cigars on his website, he has 3 pages dedicated to just the lines of cigars, not even the individual offerings of each. I mean, it is significant. He is certainly one of the volume producers out of Nicaragua, making a lot of cigars. And I think he's making a lot of cigars for other folks too. I'm not so sure, but you know, he has a lot of cigars and most of them are budget. I mean, you know, aside from maybe the new the 60, which, you know, performed pretty well last year in Cigar Aficionado's rating, celebrating 60 years. I guess it was his 60th birthday. Um,
How many total cigars does he sell? Do you know?
I don't know.
Is there a count?
I don't know.
It is substantial, by the way. I was shocked when.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think he's definitely in North America. He's
a monster.
he's pretty up there.
I think it's interesting to think about his customer base. If you recall back to when we were going through Cigar Aficionado, asking retailers what folks were asking for, and then comparing that to what people were buying.
Mm-hmm.
We saw on the buying list that Rocky made an appearance. It's like his customer base, this customer base is for a lower budget smoker, which is fine. I think it's very much in line with like an Oliva, which, we had very high success with. But these cigars are not in that Davidoff type price range or that really higher end quality, sure. But, in that higher end price range. And I think he's very purposely trying to make these cigars affordable for as many people as possible. And I respect that.
It's a definite business model. Sell decent quality at a low price. You're going to move product,
and
regardless of what it is.
So I've got some numbers to answer Bam's question. First, I'm not sure if you said this, but he's got over 100 different lines, which is nuts.
It's obscene.
And in 2018 alone, he exported 22.5 million cigars to the U.S.
That is
so it's got to be probably closer to 30 million now,
dude,
a year,
dude.
And the total demand over here being about 100 million, plus or minus.
I would think it's a little more than that. I think it was 300 million.
Oh, 300.
Yeah, but it's still that's a significant percentage.
Significant, yeah.
For one manufacturer.
How good do your blenders have to be to blend hundreds of cigars and give each a unique profile? Give me a break.
So I got to tell you this.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
I was reading something and they said, well, the tostadoras, typically are expected to roll between 450 to 500 cigars a day. But at Rocky Patel, we do, we focus on quality. So they're expected to do about 250 to 300.
That's a lot of cigars.
That's a lot of,
lot.
it's like,
in Cuba is like 100, 120.
Yeah. So, these guys are just, ramping out product.
That's a little odd. I mean, in Cuba, if they can roll 100 cigars,
it's an accomplishment.
No, and yet there's quality issues.
Yeah.
And these guys can roll like 200 and there's no draw issues.
Except for tonight.
Something is, most of the new worlds, draw pretty good.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
We normally don't have a problem.
Hey, man, look, from the point of view of company ownership, a business ownership, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's owned by him. He was, the company was founded in 1995 as Indian Tobacco Cigar Company. Rocky was a Hollywood attorney.
Yeah.
And he fell in love with cigars in between takes on movie sets, and he would smoke cigars with other actors, and then he sold his legal practice to start the cigar business.
That's cool.
And I really admire, he's been in this since 95, man. That's
true entrepreneur.
Yeah. That's almost 30 years grinding. This guy is notorious for having spent weeks in his car at a time, just driving from retail store to retail store, door to door, literal door to door work.
I did not know that.
Like, he was a successful Hollywood attorney, went into his car and went door to door to pitch his cigars. I respect that, man.
Yeah.
I was at a cigar lounge in Santa Monica. There are very few. So this particular one, the owner actually knew Rocky Patel from before. He said he used to skateboard in Santa Monica on the Santa Monica Pier when he was an attorney, and he was pretty successful. He even showed me his building was like very close by. And then then he decided his passion for cigar was so great that he bought that Indian Tobacco brand, and he just went off from there.
Yeah, and blew up.
And then he changed the name to Rocky Patel, and then his brothers got involved much later on. And he literally did go like I said, door to door promoting his brand.
Yeah.
So
and think about
credit for that.
Think about too, like when he was doing this in the late 90s. It's like the cigar boom time, and think about how many manufacturers, how many brands were coming out, how many things were being released, and still finding a way to get through that and to thrive.
Yeah.
Well, in 30 years later, that's incredible.
It is amazing.
And there is not a single cigar shop that I've been to
that doesn't
big or
have
small
a
that
Rocky
does not
Patel.
have Rocky
That's
Patel
everywhere.
They are everywhere. And
Huge
he owns
marketers.
the business himself. He is not owned by a conglomerate. It's not owned by General or Scandinavia. It's, he owns it and runs it with his brother.
It's tremendous. It's
Pretty
tremendous.
incredible.
Oh, yeah. I've never had a bad Rocky. I've only had maybe 4 or 5 different ones my whole life. I don't even remember the ones I've had. I've had this, and I've had a few of the smaller vitolas, and I'm just going to name the band. They were dark maroon or burgundy colored bands. Little.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. They say they're like aged for 10 or more years.
Yeah,
It's,
whatever.
Is it
yeah.
decade?
No.
It's been a while. Honestly,
No.
I
know
enjoyed
that
it.
The red band, it's a very dark wrapper on the
It's
cigar.
like a Petit Corona type of a cigar, that vitola,
Okay.
that shape.
I think I've had that.
It's not bad. I can't complain about it.
That one cigar, if we're talking about the same one, it has a dark red band and it's got a very dark wrapper.
Oh, yes.
And I was in Scottsdale or Phoenix, Arizona, and actually I was at the Phoenician, and they have like a humidor near the golf course, and I actually didn't have cigars on me, so I had to buy something there. Selection was extremely limited, so I actually had that. It was not bad.
Yeah. I can't complain about any Rockies that I've had.
What's the most expensive one that he has? Is it the Decade?
No,
Or
the
is it the
Decade's a budget
60?
cigar.
Decade is a budget cigar?
Yeah, that's a pretty.
Which
I always
apparently
thought
I was
it
just
was-
reading got 95 points by CA.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
and this specific line here got a 96 from CA. I think it was the number 5 cigar of the year, Cigar Aficionado 2019.
In 19, I
Yeah.
think that's when I tried it for the first time. I think we had played golf and we ended up at JNR. And we were hanging out and we were just looking at cigars. And I think the 2 cigars that we picked up was the EP Korea, the Encore, and the ALR. And we really enjoyed it. Although we did have the Gordo. So
Oh, boy.
That's a big cigar.
It's like smoking a baseball bat.
So just some more on the history of his company, because again, I find, despite our, ball busting at the beginning of the episode, because Rooster always mentions this since we started doing the pod, but
My favorite.
I just find it fascinating. So he founded the original company, like I said, called Indian Tobacco. It was under license from Indian Motorcycle Company. I guess it was inspired by the motorcycle company. He licensed the name, partnered with them in some way,
That's cool.
and began manufacturing cigars in Honduras. And like Rooster said, renamed the company to Rocky Patel Premium Cigars in 2006. Indian Tobacco fell as a marca under that main line, that main brand, and was discontinued in 2014. And since 2013, his brother Nish, as we mentioned earlier, who also has his own cigar line, since 2013, he's been involved in the company. And I guess as of 2015, it's based now in Bonita Springs, Florida. But anyway, I'm fascinated by his story, and I just love an entrepreneurial story like that, and somebody willing to get in their car and drive around and make a business for themselves, and now shipping probably upward, like Senator said, of 30 million cigars a year.
Tremendous. It's
is
incredible.
Tremendous.
Again, I go back to that. It's hysterical that you have enough blenders that are sophisticated and skilled enough to give each cigar its own identity, Rooster. How is that possible? How do you do that?
You take a leaf out of one and put it in the other one.
Yeah.
It's
Look,
easy.
I admire it. I admire that ability to do that.
Look,
if that's what they're doing.
oxygen oxidizes.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
I think he has a third brother too, right?
a cousin.
Oh,
Oh, there you go.
Cousin.
3 brothers, they got it.
3 blenders.
Each roll 100.
10 million each.
10 million each.
Good to go.
But there you go. He's a lizard, right?
Oh,
At the
yeah,
end of the
he's
day.
definitely a lizard.
100%.
Right.
And the other thing about Rocky too is I would say, as far as the manufacturers go, he is one of the loudest voices in the anti-FDA regulation stuff. Whenever you see those articles come out in Cigar Aficionado or on Half Wheel or Cigar Journal, wherever they may be, his quote is always in there. He's very active in that community, which is a very good thing.
And not just active lending his voice, lending his time and actually being there in person. He's in DC a lot, meets with lawmakers. I mean, if you look at like PCA, Premium Cigar Association, they're with him all the time lobbying. It's great.
Wow.
It's
very
also his
helpful.
law background that helps.
That's
I
true.
would think so.
You know,
It's true.
I would think so. Yeah, that would have decimated his business. Early on, the first round of these taxes were based on the number of vitolas, the individual vitolas and the size, right? And you were taxed on each independent size. That would have killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's beloved in the
Thankfully,
industry.
that's Pat. Yeah.
There's no question about that. He's beloved.
Mm.
You know, and I think, like I said, I mean, to make premium cigars at a really affordable price that people certainly love. I mean, and the other thing too is he's really infiltrated. You know, if you think about when you buy beginner packs of cigars, those 5ers or 10ers, you're always getting a Rocky Patel or two in there. Certainly, I remember smoking the Decade. I got one of those, I think, from Cigar International or something. And, you know, it was certainly one of the better ones in the pack. Not great now comparatively because, you know, there weren't putting brands in there that we know and love and smoke a lot. But anyway, I think it's a pretty cool story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to like his cigars. I think I haven't had many, but they're these anniversary series. I think the 15, 20, and the 25.
Yep.
I think 20 being apparently like really mild and somewhat could be a day-to-day cigar, but the 15 and 25 are slightly they were meant to be premium.
Isn't there like $20 cigar?
I
that
think
he
it's the
makes?
60.
It's called the 60.
Yeah, that's the one I think that got the. It was number 2 last year in Cigar Aficionado, behind the H. Upman number 2 from Cuba. So his was actually the top
Which
New
one?
World cigar.
Which one?
It was the 60, 6x60 cigar.
Oh, the big monster.
It was
yeah.
a big one, yeah, real big. But I think that's closer to 20 in price.
You know, I have to say, that Rocky Patel looks great in your hand, Rooster.
Yeah, spooky.
It does look good, yeah.
And I love the smile on your face.
Didn't.
All right, let's
Well,
wait.
I'm just glad he hasn't put it off now, because the first time around, remember?
Well, he
Senator?
can't. He's being forced.
That's the beauty of this podcast.
Yeah.
Is if these microphones weren't here,
we
this wouldn't be happening.
He'd be running for the
We
hills.
were hanging out at the steakhouse. Rooster had given me a Cuban, and in return, I gave him an ALR.
Oh, boy.
And
sure.
as soon as he lit it up, he just put it down right away. I was like, damn.
He's like, I gave this fucking guy a Cuban.
So, boys, we're about half an inch, a little over half an inch here into the ALR, second edition Robusto. Very pleasant so far for me.
I'm not. I mean, I'm not really getting anything out of it. I'm not getting much. I mean, what flavor note could you say? I'm not getting any cocoa. Yeah, maybe a little white pepper.
For me, the pepper's dissipated. That's disappeared. I'm getting.
Can you name one note?
I can
that's
name
a kind of
cocoa.
distinct
I'll
note?
name 3. So Senator nailed it, earth, and I'm still getting that. A little leather and coffee for me.
I'm also
not-
getting a little cocoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting muted cocoa. Like, it's
Yeah.
not a...
I can't really make out like a coffee note.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I'm not getting as much coffee. I get like dark chocolate or like cacao. Like it's
Yeah, It's very dark.
It's very
espresso.
dark.
It's espresso. I
very
think.
dark.
Yeah.
And then there's a tiny faint bit of sweetness that's like brown sugar or molasses, like in the background.
That works. It's tough in this room, right? Because we love the Padron line and we go to that, and that supersedes anything that this cigar can ever do.
Sure.
But for what it is, it's smoking nicely.
I think it's a pleasant cigar.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not even thinking about putting it down or wanting to do that. But what I will say, as far as flavor that we get out of Nicaraguan cigars, this is on the, I think Pagoda said the word more muted. It's a more muted version of Nicaraguan tobacco. Whereas if we talk about Tatuaje as something that's very, very in your face, punching you with spice, almost unpleasant, which is what I experience, when I smoke a lot of the Tatuaje.
Were you expecting that with this cigar? Because you've never had this before.
I was expecting more of a Padron type of profile,
Experience. Mhm.
not as complex or interesting or as refined. Certainly, just let's talk about just age, period. The tobacco is half the age of the 1964 line of Padron, but it's just not as interesting as a lot of the other Nicaraguans that we've had.
Yeah, I think it's kind of his philosophy on cigars. Like you think about, I mean, I've had maybe 1 or 2 from the Decade line. I think Grinder gave me this Rocky Java that I honestly did not enjoy, but I've tried it.
Did you get coffee?
That's all I got. It was just like almost like a flavored. I almost questioned if it was really the cigar. It was just coffee all the way through, nothing else, and that's what frustrates. I just want some complexity. But the reason I say this is all of the cigars I've had that he makes, even when they're Nicaraguan, they're super smooth and barely medium. It's like weird. Like, like you're getting flavor. Like the flavor notes are usually things that should be rich and deep and kind of in your face, but they're delivered in such a gentle, light, muted way. And that's just been my experience really across everything I've had that he makes. So I feel like, maybe he's trying to appeal to some more novice smokers that maybe want some of those bolder Nicaraguan flavors, but at this point in their journey, maybe need them or prefer them delivered in a really gentle way, not as full as, some of the other Nicaraguan cigars that we're used to.
And that's exactly what this is. And I think that's what his whole, concept is for his cigars. Mid-market, maybe just below that. And it's easy to smoke. It's fairly smooth, like you said, Senator. I think it's right on the money.
What I like about
for $11.
Yeah,
don't forget
for
that.
$11. And I'm sure you can buy it cheaper. I didn't buy a box of this.
Sure
I bought 2 5s for it. So I'm sure if you're buying a box or you're buying in bulk, you're going to be able to get them even less than that. But for me, it's just like the flavor profile when it hits your mouth, it dies quickly. It's in and out real fast.
Very short finish.
Very short.
That's correct.
I don't even think it's finishing. That's how fast it's out the door. It is a very tame Nicaraguan flavor profile. It's just touching medium for me right now.
No, but you're so right about the short finish. There's nothing. There's no flavor left in the mouth at all. It's like,
and I think
coming from you, the ALR expert,
not the expert. I really enjoyed it at that time when I was smoking it.
You've evolved.
I have evolved.
You were smoking this daily.
Look at the company around me.
So much so that I think Rooster prohibited you from smoking any more of them.
He shamed you out of smoking any Rocky Patel.
You shamed us all out of it. It took 104 episodes to get to it.
I threw my box out because of you.
I was hoping it would be 500 episodes before you got this.
I never mentioned Rocky Patel after that. I think what I was introduced to the exclusive around the same time, and then I think exclusive just took over.
Of course,
which is such a great cigar.
Yeah, exclusivo kicks ass over.
Kicks ass. No, this is like
you know what? You know what though? No, here's the thing that's I think important here. I think the intention. I think the intent of the blend is important. Exactly to Senator's point.
Right.
He's not going for the Padron smoker with us.
He wants to go for those guys who are just under that.
He's trying to give
market.
someone a Nicaraguan experience without the oomph at all.
Yeah.
And I think he's doing that.
Padron, it's not the oomph. I think even a novice smoker would want some kind of flavor out of a cigar, some kind of notes that he can distinctly make out. I can't really make out anything.
I will say one thing though. If I have a party, and I probably will, another cigar thing.
Are we invited?
I'm not attending if this is what he's giving out.
No.
I'm worried that's where he's going.
Yeah, I would give this to a novice above an exclusivo.
I would too.
It's less expensive and it's well made and it's easy to smoke.
I was with some guys earlier today. I had a long lunch.
Home run for a novice cigar guy.
I had a long lunch and I gave one of the novice smokers a Padron Exclusivo today. I smoked a Cuban. He was more interested in the Nicaraguan just based on its look and its shape. He thought it was more for him. And it was, honestly, we had a steak lunch. We went to Capitol Grill. We had a nice big steak lunch. And it was too much for him after.
Dude.
I should have thought more in the line of a more mild
We're just so used to the whole Padron line. People that haven't smoked a lot of those, it's a packs a punch for them.
Powerhouse.
Packs a punch, yeah.
So you could have saved $6 and give him
this
instead of this. No, save $6 and give him the Oliva V Lancero.
I had an Oliva V Lancero in my bag.
That's a full cigar.
Yeah. But I had one in there
after a steak lunch.
He was intimidated by the size of it.
Does the Oliva V also have the San Andres wrapper?
I think the Oliva is a complex cigar, probably not for the first timer.
I think so.
Even though it's so affordable, I understand gravitating to it. I probably wouldn't do that. I'd give him this ALR.
But again, going back to what Senator was saying,
quicker smoke.
What Senator was saying on the intention of this blend is, I think, a perfect example. I experienced it today, and I didn't even connect that dot until we said it. Certainly we sit here and say Padron Exclusivo is a run-of-the-mill everyday cigar, but we're smoking 20, 25 cigars a week. For somebody who's smoking one cigar a month or one cigar every 2 or 3 months, and you're not buying Cuban tobacco, you're either getting a mild Dominican, you want something Nicaraguan that's not going to knock you around, this might be the one for you.
Yep.
What I find interesting too here is that Rocky Patel says that the strength profile of this line is medium full, and I'm not feeling that yet.
Medium.
I would say this is just touching medium for me.
It's fine. It's accurate.
So this also comes in two other sizes. I wanted to mention that obviously tonight we're smoking the Robusto 50 by 5.5. Comes in a Toro 52 by 6.5, and it comes in a Gordo, which is the 60, separate from the 60 line, celebrating his 60th birthday, which is 6 by 60, which has kind of become a classic Rocky Patel size. Is that 6 by 60?
The horror of Halloween is creeping into Rooster's mind as
I'm
you're talking about it.
I'm just in my head. I'm thinking
just saw a
like the
ghost.
size 6 by 60, and I'm like, oh, the pain that I would have to endure to smoke a 60 ring
The
gauge
horror
of this. Oh my God!
Pagoda, what were you smoking this in?
Yeah,
You
the
were-
Gordo. The
Oh, wow.
Six
Wow,
by
that's a
60.
big cigar,
Wow.
man.
Yeah.
He's a glutton for punishment.
And we still befriended you. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'd argue we saved him.
You did save me.
He has
Oh.
changed.
It's a nice, beautiful white ash, beautifully constructed.
Yeah, the construction is good. The draw is good. Yeah.
You know, I know your favorite term is stacking dimes. I'm stacking dimes here on this ash. It's very nice.
But you know, by the way, the Olivevi does not have the San Andres Rabbit, just to follow up on. But you know, the La Historia El Senador
Mhm.
that does.
From EP Carrillo,
Yeah.
which performed very well on the pod.
Yeah, it's a great cigar.
Not the same price, right?
I think that might be a
Less
little more than
expensive.
a little
Cheaper.
more. It's cheaper.
$8
Oh, excuse
cheaper.
me.
Yeah.
It was under 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a lot more flavorful than this.
Agreed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I would put this closer, if my memory serves me well,
To the Calavera.
to the pledge prequel that we did.
Pledge prequel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
I would
Yeah,
put
I
this
like
more
that.
in line with that because I remember we were smoking that cigar, which obviously was the number one cigar of the year 2 or 3 years ago, kind of right around when we started doing the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember smoking it, acquiring it, and people were raving about it. I feel like we were having a similar conversation about its flavor profile and it's kind of being timid or muted and not a lot of complexity there.
We didn't really like that cigar.
We didn't rate it well.
No.
No. We much preferred the
I think this
La
is better.
Historia.
This is better than that cigar.
I think
For
the,
me. Remember.
I think the second half of the pledge was really, really bad.
Yeah.
I think if memory serves me right.
This is a better cigar than that, I think.
So the other thing that Rocky does too is he has a line of cigar lounges called Burn. He opened the first one in Naples. It's called Burn by Rocky Patel. And then he also has other lounges in Oklahoma City, Indianapolis, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh. And I remember, Senator, you telling us a little story. I don't remember
Oh yeah.
how. I feel like it's a long time ago, probably
Yeah.
a year and a half ago, about being at the Burn by Rocky Patel Lounge in Pittsburgh and having a
So here's
interesting experience.
I'll say mostly good things and then just one frustrating experience I had there. The one thing I'll give it a lot of credit for, the location is fantastic. I was at a Pittsburgh Pirates baseball game and I didn't even know this. I just walk out after the game trying to figure out like, oh, where can we get a drink post game? Literally 2 blocks from the stadium is this cigar lounge. I'm like, perfect. I mean, all these people are just kind of funneling in from the game. So great foot traffic. It's a beautifully designed lounge, very modern, very new. There's like this beautiful big marble bar in the center, seating all around, outdoor seating. Now, here's where some people may love this. I didn't. There was like a DJ like blaring music. I mean, I'm not really sure that I'm going to a cigar lounge for a nightclub kind of vibe.
No,
So
no.
that was a little questionable of a decision for me. And then just the most bizarre part is I go in the humidor to buy cigars. I buy some nice stuff like some Padron. I'm not sure if they had Davidoff, but I know I definitely got Padron there. And I go and I pay for them and I sit down and I'm waiting for someone to come over, bring a lighter, matches.
Drink menu?
First of all, I expected there to be matches like on the table. Most of these places, like, they'll just have their little matchbooks and no matches on the table. 10, 15 minutes goes by. Nobody comes over. I'm just sitting there dying to light these cigars. So I finally asked someone, I said, excuse me, are there matches somewhere? Person tells me, no, we don't have matches. Like, okay, do you have a lighter? No, I don't have a lighter on me. I ask another person, do you have a lighter or matches? No, I don't have. I had to ask 3 people, all of whom said they did not have it. I finally got up and went to the manager and I said, I'm sorry, I purchased this from you here at this point, like 20, 25 minutes ago. I can't find matches or a lighter to light this. And I said, you don't have somewhere you have matchbooks? And this person literally says to me, Rocky Patel doesn't believe in matches.
So how are you expected to light that cigar?
First of all, that's an outrageous statement.
It's absurd.
Do they give like 2 stones?
It's crazy.
You get a magnifying glass, you got to go by a window.
It's also to say you don't believe in matches. How do you think cigars were lit before butane lighters existed with
right.
fucking matches? I mean,
Poopa would say cedar spills.
right.
spills.
I mean, it's just absurd. So it's like, and I'm not a big matches guy. I prefer butane lighter, but it's like I at least respect people who choose to use matches, and it makes obvious sense why they have them in a cigar lounge. So I thought that was so bizarre. And then the person's telling me like, oh, sorry that they told you they don't have lighters. The people have walked off with them. So like I have one, but we don't really like to give the staff. I'm like, how do people light the cigars they purchase here? And so I had to like beg the person to give me the lighter and actually let me bring it to the table, and I would bring it back. I'm like, you see how much I just spent on these cigars. If you think I want to walk away with your $5 lighter, believe me, I do not. And so I light the cigar.
I have never been to a lounge where you
Ever.
cannot find
Not ever.
that's crazy.
something to light your cigar with.
Exactly.
It's part of the course.
Dude, it's like going to a restaurant. We're
No
out of forks
forks.
and knives. I'm sorry.
That's
What are you
right.
supposed to do?
It was just crazy. So
outrageous.
that was just really frustrating. Like that's the one thing that left a sour taste for me with that experience. The bar was great. I remember the drinks were very good. It's a nice space. I just think they need to kind of rework the service orientation to understand what the customer actually needs, which is to light the cigars that they purchase there.
The basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it also a restaurant or just a bar?
I don't remember food. If there was, it's very light bites. I know I didn't see anybody with like a full meal.
Because I thought you visited the Florida location, no?
I did not. No, I've been to some other lounges. I'm on the east side of Florida.
Okay.
He's in Naples.
Naples got it. Okay.
So I've actually I don't think I've ever been in Naples.
Okay.
I've only been on the East Coast, so I go to a lot of the Smoke Inn
Mhm.
locations,
Well,
which they have a big, they have a popular
And a lot of lighters.
and a lot of lighters, but they
Well,
have a lot of locations on the East
yeah, the
Coast.
one closer to you is in Fort Lauderdale at that Guitar Hard Rock Hotel. There's
Yes.
a Davidoff.
There's a Davidoff there. I haven't been to that one either, but I know
was
it's there.
there. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They, Florida, they have a lot of lounges down there.
Sure.
They're very lucky in that way.
Yeah, Miami too. I mean, there's tons of lounges.
That's true.
It is odd the locations of these Burned by Rocky Patel lounges. I mean, if you think of like the big major cities, he's not in any of them.
Yeah,
Naples, Pittsburgh,
Indianapolis.
Oklahoma City,
Atlanta.
Cheap rent.
or Atlanta would be
Cheap
the only
rent.
one.
And you know what's really interesting is I think the location in Atlanta is right by the baseball stadium because
Oh wow!
That's
I
smart.
think a
Smart.
buddy of mine was, or by some convention center, I'm not sure. Because a buddy of mine was getting out of somewhere and he also bumped into a Rocky Patel.
No, it's
Like
very
the-
clever.
yeah,
I mean,
the
I
Burned
love
Lounge.
that. Can you imagine like going to a Yankees or a Mets game here in like the New York market, and 2 blocks down there being a
Sure.
cigar lounge after
Yeah.
the game?
Yeah,
Which
so
also
incredible
plays.
bars.
It also plays into the DJ kind of atmosphere. Someone coming out of a
Yeah.
sporting event,
Sure.
wanting to continue drinking, have a cigar. It's a little different than a bunch of us sitting down and talking about the stock market and Teslas and watches and alcohol and whatever else.
You
we
love
talk
that
about.
Tesla.
Tesla.
I just said that to
Tesla.
annoy you.
By the way, it is pronounced with an S.
Thank you, Bam.
I'm not arguing that on the pod.
All right.
Okay, guess.
Good timing.
That was
Touche.
perfect.
That's funny.
So the other thing that Rocky does is he's a primary sponsor and I believe host of the Cigars Smoking World Championship.
This is also should be called the Rooster.
Wait a
We-
minute.
I was going to
Championship.
say we should enter Rooster into this. So Rocky provides a.
Is that true?
Yes.
With an ALR Gorda, if we can.
Not if I have to smoke a Rocky Patel.
Is this the one where you're laying in bed?
No,
No.
you have them mixed up. That's a different event.
Or
That's a different competition.
That's not smoking cigars.
Yeah,
No. I heard there
What
was
videos you been watching?
one. A lot. You're laying down and you're
Down.
smoking.
Naked.
No, I wish. No,
What?
I heard there's something like this, and if you're smoking it like this, laying down, and
No.
Oh,
there's something like
I
that.
think
out
this.
there.
I think it's the same, but you're not laying down, but
Okay.
And you're definitely not in a bed.
All right.
They roll like 30 beds into the Burn by Rocky Patel. Twin size beds.
Oh my
You
god.
get to pick your pillow and
Golden sheets.
Were you talking about the competition where who can smoke the slowest?
who
Yes.
could
That's
smoke
what
the
this
slowest.
That's the one.
That's
That's what I'm talking about.
But I thought they're all.
That's what you're talking
That's
about.
what I. Okay.
Maybe they lay down. I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't know what Bam's watching, but pretty wild. So they provide it's a consistent Rocky Patel cigar for all the participants. It looks like it's either a Corona or a Robusto type of size. Very similar in makeup to the cigar we're smoking now. Mexican wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan and Honduran filler. What's interesting is, they don't have the rules posted. I'm pretty familiar with the rules. You can't let it go out. The whole idea is you're not allowed to relight the cigar after the first light. And then you have to see how long you can maintain that cigar smoking without relighting it. And whoever is the longest wins. So if you can believe all top 5 cigar smokers smoked this, I think it's a Corona or a Robusto, for over 208 minutes. Number 3 was 225 minutes, and number 2 and number 1 were even beyond that.
Wow.
So you're talking, what is that?
4 hours.
4 hours on a Robusto or a Corona?
That's right in line with
impossible. No,
Rooster's
it's
pace.
We should
Take much longer.
We should put Rooster in this competition, Senator. What do you think?
Oh, I want to see this.
and I think if we send Rooster in the morning at breakfast time.
So, boys, we're about, I would say, halfway through the cigar right now.
A bit less. Yeah.
I'm coming up on the. I'm coming up near the band. What do you think? I'm not hating it.
Nope.
I've tempered my expectations of what I think a Nicaraguan cigar should be in strength. And flavor wise, I think it's a little muted, but it's not bad.
No.
I like the spice. There's a little sweetness. There's a little kind of saltiness on the front of my tongue right now.
I am right there with you.
I'm not complaining.
1 3/4 ash here.
Yeah. You've
Bright
got a lot
white.
of ash.
Bright white. Let's see the structure. Let's see how many taps. One.
One tap right on the floor. Well done, Bam.
Yes, sir.
It's just one
For
of
the
those
listener,
nights.
when I tell you he put it over the ashtray and it all went right
I
on the floor.
underestimated the length of that ash.
I don't think it's on the floor. It's in the ice bucket, I think.
No, right next to it.
Oh, jeez.
Man, please don't lay down.
So speaking of cigar lounges, just briefly, because I love to celebrate this, I saw that Wisconsin just introduced a bill allowing for new cigar bars, which I guess they hadn't in quite some time. So they have 22 sponsors in the state assembly, 6 members in the Senate. I mean, just fantastic to see more lounges being built, allowing more communities like this to be created. I mean, this is, around the country, so many of our friends, so many lizards out there have joined lounges or at lounges well before listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
And they all say the same thing. And it's just their coolest, most tight group of friends that they most relate to at this point in their life are at that cigar lounge.
It's your home away from home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge because in all these cities, really, it's the cigar lounges that are allowed to persist are the ones that are grandfathered in. Obviously, anything new really can't open. So in Wisconsin, the law was any cigar lounge that existed prior to 2009 could continue to exist, but everything after that, you couldn't get a new license to do it. So this is huge. I mean, honestly, like this opens up a whole new world for other lounges. Obviously, there. Other states have done similar. We might have talked about this. Connecticut recently did exactly the same thing. I don't know what year their cutoff was, but now Connecticut is going to open up and allow other new lounges to come about. And then even states, it says Nevada, North Dakota, Montana, and Idaho are kind of all following suit. So
That's wonderful.
we just kind of need that to hit the coast.
Yeah.
That would be ideal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even in New Jersey, I think you can still, despite how
We're pretty fortunate up here.
how restricted some things are in the state here. We've talked about some of them on the pod.
Mhm.
But, it's there's quite a few cigar lounges around here. And
No, it's
a lot
true.
have opened up recently. Like this lounge that we're at here, 1086,
It's only
which
3
is
years
certainly
old.
our home away from home is only 3 years old.
That's right.
So to
It's true. It's like the big coastal cities. So like New York, they don't allow any
Yeah.
new cigar lounges. San Francisco,
Nope.
exactly the same thing. LA, I have to imagine is the same, but I'm not positive.
don't forget that new Cohiba lounge just opened out there.
In the LA.
The Red Dot Lounge.
That's
I
right.
thought that was, I don't think it was in LA. It's,
Let me look.
San Diego has actually quite a few lounges.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Never been there,
Great city.
I hear.
best weather, I think, in the
Oh.
entire country. is in
Santa
San
Barbara.
Diego.
Santa Barbara,
Santa
yeah.
Barbara.
The new
Yeah, so
Cohiba Lounge.
close to LA.
Yeah.
Not too
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, pretty close to LA. But
Nice.
I mean, man, they spent some money on this thing too. I mean, it is really, really nice.
It's another beautiful city, Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So I heard like in Long Island, um, somebody just renovated a cigar lounge and put in like $8 million,
Wow.
and it's above a restaurant.
It's a lot of cigars.
I believe in the Eisenhower Park. Yeah, no, it's so there's a demand for it, and it's growing, and people are investing.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's great to see them opening, especially coming from a city where there are no lounges at all.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's a lot of these cities take this into their own hands. Like in New York State, there are outside of New York City itself, you can open cigar lounges.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect example right out
It's
on
true.
Long Island. But like Manhattan, they just don't allow it.
Mhm.
Same thing like LA, San Francisco. Then you get a little outside of LA, Santa Barbara, and they're apparently allowed to open a lounge. So I just hope some of these cities, start to get a little more reasonable and just let people do what they want.
And it's also like, the benefit of this community. It's like you have the friendship, the mental health component of sitting down. Quite honestly, when you light a cigar, you're committing to that sit, right? The mental health component of that quietness, the friendship, that you're getting away from work or the home. Like to me, it's like, I don't understand why it's being so restricted when you're not hurting anybody. And you walk into these lounges, it's not like you're walking into a plume of smoke. There's smoke eaters, there's filtration. Like the room is clear, it's clean.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me that because it's tobacco and they tie it to kids, they tie it to cigarettes, they tie it to blunts. It's unfortunate this premium product is so restricted, at the state level
Mhm.
in a lot of places.
So what about the drink over here?
Yeah, let's talk about this.
It's become so cloudy.
The ice. That's true. It looks like iced tea.
It does.
It really does. I'm really looking forward to trying
Hillrock.
sip here.
It's the Hillrock, right?
The Hillrock Double Cask Rye Whiskey.
So this was sent in by a listener, actually. Yeah, he Lizard Elias actually hit us up and said, "Hey, can you send me your address? I want to send you guys some spirits to try because we were talking about upstate New York, like pretty close to us, distilleries, and Hillrock is located in Ancram, New York. And Elias says they've been putting out some really delicious bourbon, rye, and single malt whiskeys. He says he himself has a strong preference for the cask strength ryes, but he chose the two he sent. Tonight we're having the double cask Sauternes finished rye. He chose these because they're interesting, approachable, and enjoyable with or without ice. And he's fairly certain that the bourbon was finished in a 4-square rum cask, which he knows is beloved by most listeners.
So this is actually quite delicious with ice, I will say. First of all, we're all fascinated by getting gifts from a listener.
It's incredible.
It really is incredible.
This is actually
It's amazing.
This is actually a very smooth rye.
Yeah. It does need a bit of ice, I will say. I tried it neat. It's a little tough to get down, but with ice, it's actually quite enjoyable, very smooth, and a little sweet.
I mean, it's an overproof spirit. It's 90 proof.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely going to pack a punch. But I will say, I mean, I knew nothing about this distillery. Obviously, just looking a little bit up once the listener had sent it. They've got a really cool story. So, like, really, any of these whiskey distilleries, there's not a single one that I would challenge any listener to tell me of a distillery where every single thing that goes into making that, from growing to manufacturing it, is all done on the estate, on their property. And, we always make these analogs to wine. Like some of the most expensive wines are like estate grown. Everything's actually done there. 90% of wines, obviously, they're sourcing stuff from other places and then obviously blending it, making it there. So they grow, mill, distill, and age all their rye there. The thing that was fascinating, even just historically, about New York. So this is made in New York State. And in the 1800s, New York produced more than half of the nation's barley and rye.
Wow.
Which I had no idea.
I would have had no idea about that.
Yeah.
So apparently, like, the growing conditions are just really great there. And then it was obviously like prohibition, and like thousands of these farms just went by the wayside. And obviously New York is no longer necessarily known for that. So they kind of build themselves as field to glass, like, farm to table.
Farm to
like
table, yep.
everything really is done there, which is cool. I have to say the tasting notes were kind of funny to me. There's one in here.
By the way, that's my new favorite thing that we do on this podcast is read the tasting
Can
notes.
you please do that right now?
Because they're always wrong.
Ready,
So,
go.
Here we go. The end result is a deep, rich rye that shows off espresso toffee. Now, buckle up for this one.
Honeysuckle.
Sarsaparilla.
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 It's like
Well,
Ru-
sorry.
I love that Senator ruined the
No.
pronunciation.
Well,
Yes.
this is why. Can I
I'm
spell
loving
this? Can I spell this? Ready? SARSA.
Okay.
So I said
Listen,
sarsa.
any linguist would know that the
That's
R is
true.
silent. Right, Bam?
Yeah.
Just making sure it's clear that I could read. That's how it's spelled.
By the way, the
caramel.
next time I mess up a pronunciation and it gives me shit about it, I'm going to spell it out.
So what?
Can you keep that as a
phonetically.
clip? That's a clip.
So what is that?
It's like root beer.
Yeah, sarsaparilla.
is
That's
like
right.
root beer.
Mhm.
No, thank you. All right.
I don't get that, by the way.
Caramel, and then it says the finish reverberates with long echoes of clove, dried orange peel, nutmeg, and baker's chocolate. All notes that sound great.
You guys getting any of that?
I don't think so.
None of that?
It's pleasant. I mean, I'm not gonna. I kind of like it with ice. I can
Right.
drink this again.
Yeah, I like it.
I do too.
Just smell the nose of it.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
nice
it's like
on
the
the nose.
holidays in a glass.
Yeah, and I think that's where Foursquare. If they finish it in Foursquare barrels, that's probably where it comes from.
The bottle is really cool.
I was
Cool
about to
design.
say the design is beautiful. The spirit, the color of the
artisanal.
spirit's awesome.
The way that these were packed, I was like, what are these? You know, the way the box it came in from Elias, I guess, sent it from a distributor. And it came in these like really bundled bubble wrap. And I'm like, what are these things? And I pulled them out and it like, like Rooster's saying, it's these square, bottles, unlike anything I think I've seen. I mean, they were pretty significant when they came out.
That's a handsome presentation.
It's a beautiful
nice.
bottle,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, like Bam was saying, it's just so cool. Thank you so much to Lizard Elias for sending us these bottles, and we're going to try the other one down the road. But we really, really appreciate the love from the listeners. It's been amazing.
Where are they located?
Ancram, New York.
Yeah, Ancram. But where is Ancram? Never heard of it.
It's about 25 miles from or 25 minutes from where we are right now. I think
Oh,
it's
that's
right
all?
over the border.
It pairs nicely with the cigar,
I think it pairs very nicely.
Yeah.
I agree.
right?
It does have the, I guess, it really cleanses your palate in a way. Like I haven't felt that in a rye before. It has that orange. It does have that orange peel.
This is sweeter than
citrusy.
most ryes I've had, honestly.
And I'm glad for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. So how they age this in two different casks. I was reading how the second one is to balance for it's like a lot of ryes typically are very spicy, and it's to balance out the spice with some more like sweet caramel notes. So it was very intentional on their part.
Makes sense. Like I've had the Bullet Rye, not as sweet as this, and the Whistle Pig, I think, is more sophisticated than this. A different type of rye. Both very good. Can't complain.
Yeah, I think it's pairing very well with the cigar.
Mhm.
I think it works.
Yeah, so thanks again to Lizard Elias. Very, very cool. So Pagoda, we're talking so positively about lounges and smoking freely and nice smoking communities and experiences. You just came back from Toronto.
You mean North Korea?
I heard a constable was chasing.
You sent a
down the
photo
street
of you smoking against a brick wall. We thought you might have.
with a cigar in his hand.
I was actually hiding and smoking. You could see I was. in
You
one
were against
corner.
a brick wall.
Yeah, I was against a brick wall between two side walls. I found this little nook and I was smoking over there because. So what happened is I didn't know whether they would allow you to smoke cigars. So in Toronto, you can you can smoke outside anywhere apparently, and so I went up to the reception and said, "Is it all right if I smoke outside?" And they said, "Sure, of course." Then I went and there's a beautiful patio with a fireplace in the middle of the patio. So I just took a little chair, went all the way in the back, right by the wall, and I started smoking there. And that was the first time. Then after that, it just opened up, and we all were smoking in the patio. But yeah, I was a bit nervous going there because of Rooster's experience, and I was like,
Again, Rooster's horrific stories.
yeah,
First to Rocky Patel and now Toronto. It is Halloween.
it is.
It's the spooktacular.
Yeah, so I was a bit nervous, because I really enjoy cigars, and it gives me the break even when I'm on a short trip away, and it was great. Yeah, so wonderful times. A lot of people got together. I was there for a wedding. We were smoking around the fireplace in a really nice patio. We put our music on, and a fantastic, fantastic evening.
That's
And the
cool.
weather cooperated at least 2 of the 3 days I was there.
I
So.
love a fall wedding. If I have to go to
Yeah.
a wedding, I like a fall wedding.
Because you don't sweat in your
You're not
suit.
because
sweating.
you can wear a hoodie to the
You
wedding.
can wear a
That's
hoodie.
true.
It's hoodie weather. It's hoodie weather. So, did you go to any cigar places, any cigar lounges? Or there are no lounges, but
No,
any retail shops, anything like that?
No, so 2 things. I did ask around. There are no lounges. I think in a prior episode I might have mentioned that I'd bumped into a lizard at Carnegie who actually reached out to me this weekend and said, "Hey, what are you up to?" He had actually invited me over, to the location to I think his friend's garage. They smoke over there, and um, although this wedding, I was just really tied up in the wedding, and I couldn't get the time out to be able to really research and go. He was in a different part of town, but it was a fantastic experience because once we figured out that we could smoke at the hotel, and it had a really good spot, it was just wonderful.
You have to be
that's
away.
shocking.
But I mean, the law is you have to be 30 meters away.
But he
from-
can smoke at a hotel? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I
On
guess
the
they're
property,
allowed.
but you have to be away from the building, I guess.
Wow.
Right.
All right.
So, did you buy any cigars?
No, so I didn't even go around looking for cigars, but on the way back, I dropped by the duty free. I said, all right, maybe let me look at a few Cubans. I could not figure out. There was a very small humidor, and everything was covered in these brown wrappers, and there were some New Worlds covered in brown wrappers as well, and they weren't described well. And so I was trying to figure out what cigars are these. It was so bad. It just looked like a little brown patch, and yeah, it was um, really disappointing that you're in the duty free in Canada where they do import Cubans, and
You just don't know what they are.
yeah, and
Yeah, you get a nice little mystery box.
In Canada, all cigars are equal.
it's like if life is a box of chocolates, you don't know which one you get.
That's right.
So you don't know.
the entire country is like basically against tobacco. It's like anti-cigar, anti-tobacco, anti-everything. But yet you can smoke weed in every fucking corner, right?
See, that's crazy.
And
I mean,
what's-
there's shops everywhere. Every cannabis. Am I right?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
it's
Cannabis stores everywhere.
Look, you can drive a car high, but you would never want to drive
No.
after
That's
smoking a
true.
cigar.
God forbid.
They're right.
and
If
you
you
know what's
get any in your lungs, it's just,
You
it's
have
a
to
real
wonder
problem for
if
you.
the cannabis locations are government owned, and if they are,
No, they're not. They're private.
They're just highly taxed.
Oh, is that right?
They're highly
Yeah.
taxed.
okay,
but-
okay.
Yeah.
But
Like-
what was interesting was I met a couple of Canadians at the hotel, and they said the irony of it all is that Canada is like really important to the Cuban economy because it's been one of those places where everyone over there goes for tourism. Like how we go to Mexico, a lot of these guys end up going to Cuba,
Yeah.
and so they really support the Cuban economy from that perspective. And the fact that you're not able to get cigars there, you would think it's a two-way street.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
strange.
even if you could buy a Cuban cigar, the taxes on it are crazy. They're ludicrous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the import taxes are hundreds of
I mean, a
percent.
D4 is like 70 US dollars.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the money too. I think we'd covered that, and
We
I
did.
mean, you were in Montreal.
Montreal,
You
yeah.
remember what you
Yeah.
paid for that.
that was
Was it 80, 85 bucks?
yeah, around $80.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, only thing is Montreal is a little bit laxed with the laws. I mean, you can still kind of smoke. There's some lounges there, although the LCDH has been closed since. But they used to be. You used to be able to smoke in there.
Yeah, the LCDH had a beautiful bar behind
Yeah.
the store, and really good leather couches and a bar right in the end, and really good whiskeys available as well. Yeah, no, it was not a bad experience overall, but yeah, for someone who's looking for a retail store or a lounge, it's just become extremely difficult.
Yeah. I mean, there are some private lounges, but you have like membership only
Membership
private
only
lounges.
private, yeah.
Sure.
You know what's crazy too? What we're talking about that you can get Cubans there. You can also get New World cigars there, right? The cigars that we can get, but they're so highly taxed that it's even prohibitive even to get a Davidoff or a Padron or a Rocky Patel we have in our hand. We look at it like, oh well, they can get Cuban cigars. We can't. It's actually the entire cigar offering in Canada is such a miss because of this, the regulation and the pricing problems with the tax.
Also,
It's just they're trying to shut down tobacco.
and the cloaking of the bands.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it easy.
And the cloaking of the bands too, let's not forget, has also limited not only in Cuban cigars, but also in these New World cigars, how many imports are actually coming in, because the lines have been restricted because Canada doesn't let the manufacturer, like Rocky Patel, right, to ship the cigar. He cannot put these bands on them. He puts a simple band, and then he has to put that brown band before they're imported. So it creates more work, more labor.
I'm curious if it's even worth it.
That's the problem.
Really?
Yeah, what's the point of it? I mean, what are they actually achieving, accomplishing by doing that?
No, I can tell you that they are achieving it, because I really had a difficult time trying to figure out what cigars there were on display. So, it's unless you're really seeking them out, if you're walking by them, you're not gonna. There's something to be said that
No. What are they preventing? Are they preventing
Kids
from like?
But does a kid know the difference between a Padron and a Davidoff?
I mean, don't
And are
you
they going
think
to pursue it?
I mean, he's not going to buy a $70 Partagas D4 to begin with.
No.
You mean you've never seen a kid in an airport at the duty free trying to buy a $70
Yeah,
D4?
all the time.
I mean,
all the
this
time.
happens everywhere.
Except for Rooster, he was 8 smoking an Exclusiva. Okay.
No, it is crazy, and I mean, it's just it's an interesting mentality. I'd love to meet the guy who introduced this initially, however many years ago it was, to try to kill the premium handmade cigar industry up there. But it's like, again, you have these incredible products that people want to smoke. They're not inhaling the cigars. And then you put the onus, you put that burden on the manufacturers to label them with these plain bands that Pagoda's talking about. It's like, if I'm one of these manufacturers, if I'm Rocky Patel and I have 100 lines and I want to import them, I'm not importing 100 lines of cigars into Canada. I'm going to import 3.
Yeah.
And now you've restricted the offering, which is of course what they want. But it's just really unfortunate for the Canadian people that they're not able to get the cigars that they want and have the same experience as we do.
I mean, the whole thing is just so stupid because, look, if their goal is essentially to phase this product out, have the balls to say, we're going to ban cigars. And guess what's going to happen? People are going to be up in arms, and some of these legislators that vote for that are going to get booted out of office.
Yep.
Like, have the gumption to actually go as far as they clearly want to go. But instead of doing that, they want to play this little stupid game of we're going to wrap stuff
very
up
ambiguous.
and do all this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, people can still get it. So, right, they're not taking as much flack as they would if they banned them. Just the whole thing is a silly game. I don't understand how people operate like this.
What did they do with cigarettes?
No, so this is the irony of it all. There were groups of guys and women hanging out and smoked cigarettes on, because it was a huge patio.
Closer to the building?
All around, everybody was on the patio.
But if I had a cigar, I'd be told you got to go over there.
No, I
it's
wasn't told.
It's all tobacco.
I see.
Yeah. No, but are the Marlboro packets also like wrapped in brown paper?
No, I didn't see them. But they were smoking cigarettes. So a lot of them were. But
I mean, at the duty-free shop, did you see any cigarettes like that were wrapped up also?
Yeah, I think I didn't. I think in the cigarette packs they had those images.
The labels.
Yeah, the labels.
The warning
I think.
labels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strange.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Crazy. So back to the United States. Oh, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was just about to say Toronto's out.
Toronto's out.
Check.
I like having this discussion about Canada as often as we do, because we have a lot of Canadian lizards who write in like, you guys are, telling this story like we have a real problem. I think I told you guys, one of my friends is a cigar reviewer in Canada, and he's like terrified when he lights up in his garage and puts his exhaust fan that his neighbor's going to call and complain on
That's
him.
unreal. That's unreal.
This guy reviews cigars for a living.
Can you imagine that in America? I would say to my neighbor, I dare you.
I know.
I mean, can you imagine
I know.
someone calling the police saying that someone in their own home is smoking a cigar and I can smell it on my lawn? I mean,
You know what?
that's just absurd.
Fuck that. I'd put a lawn chair right in front of my house.
Right.
Pull my tower up onto the grass. Here you go. And start smoking.
Only if the string lights are working.
That's right. They are.
So back to the United States for a second. The FDA, again, Not only so we discussed this, I think, briefly on a previous episode, but they're appealing the ruling of Judge Mehta with the decision to prevent the FDA from regulating handmade premium cigars. But the FDA is also preparing to now issue a final rule prohibiting flavored cigars, period, which we discussed, targeting, of course, the flavored cigars that are colorfully packaged, named things like Berry Fusion, Iced Donut, Cherry Dynamite, Watermelon, widely available and priced as cheaply as, 33 cents a piece. The problem is they're lumping in, $11 Rocky Patels or $14 Padron Exclusivos or $29, Davidoff Millenniums into the category of 33 cent flavored stuff the kids are buying because they're sugar flavored, tobacco products that give them a little bit high. And they're probably cutting them or, unrolling them and putting weed in there and rolling them back up and making spliffs out of them. It's like, it's just like, we're talking about two different things. And I just can't understand how the United States government or the Canadian government can't separate them effectively.
Aren't there a few major marcas that do sell flavored cigars?
Yeah, well,
A lot,
I think
right?
Many.
Acid.
And that could
Acid,
be
Drew Estate.
part of the problem. If
Acid,
the manufacturing
there's-
was separated from the actual high level quality cigars.
I think Java, obviously from Rocky Patel, there's some infusion in
Probably.
That's ridiculous.
There's that like Pappy Van Winkle cigar. There's like a Maker's Mark cigar. I mean, the problem is, so, at some point we're going to have some of the
Philly
folks
blunts. My favorite in blueberry.
White Owl.
White Owl.
at some point we're going to have some of the folks from Cigar Association of America on.
Yeah, we have to
And
do
I
that.
say this because, I mean, number one, they're the lead plaintiff in this case. It's Cigar Association versus the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. And on the whole flavored issue, I had lunch with the president of CAA in D.C. And I mean, I'll be honest, going into this lunch, I wasn't all that. I didn't have as much of a problem, honestly, with banning flavored cigars because I don't smoke them, so it really didn't, impact me. But
Agreed.
And we had that discussion
We did.
on the podcast
We
saying
did.
the same exact thing. So
we did.
this is really interesting.
And that's why I really want to have David, who's the president there and CEO, on. And we've been talking about this because their perspective is very different. And it took one lunch for me to start to actually embrace why their position is what it is. And it's this slippery slope, right? It's this idea that if the FDA can come in and say, well, this type of cigar we don't want people to have, then what's to stop them from saying other types of
This is
cigars?
true,
Like,
too.
at what point, if the whole premise is that this is an adult product, that the industry has not only said 18, has self-regulated and said, we want to increase to 21 years of age, right? To really make sure that no minor gets their hands on this. If that's the whole legal structure of this, then who's to say a grown adult can't choose a flavored cigar?
That's
right.
right.
I may not want to smoke one, but who's saying a 40-year-old guy or girl can't go pick up a Pappy Van Winkle cigar? It's just, that's where government has gone too far. And so their stance is like, if we give an inch on this, like they're going to
They're
take
going to
a
keep
mile.
going.
They're
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Also, from the point of view of revenue, I'm going to guess that they sell a lot of those flavored cigars
Yeah, and
nationwide.
I think for a lot of those, for Drew Estate, it's certainly their number one seller is
Yeah,
acid,
it's important from the
Right,
point of
which,
view of business.
That's the thing.
which
And-
helps them develop cigars that we love.
Correct.
That's the
Right.
other operative point. Like this is where, I really started to evolve on this because even if we're not smoking those cigars, the margins that they make on those cigars, they help keep costs low for all the stuff that we smoke. It really helps just broadly the entire industry.
Yeah. Great point.
The other thing I wanted to point out here too, and I want to talk about this with the president of CAA when we have him on. The FDA keeps throwing out that there are 500,000 youth in the United States currently using cigars each day, and more than 800 youth are trying cigars for the first time each day. Now, that says to me that these kids are getting cigars, and they're opening them and they're putting weed in them.
Likely.
Correct.
That's
and,
likely.
That's
and
what
some of
they're
those,
doing.
I'm sure, are Philly blunts. And
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
that's right.
anything with a plastic tip on the end is not a cigar.
No, it's not a cigar.
By definition, a premium cigar, this is what CAA will say, PCA, and any organization that advocates on behalf of this industry, a premium cigar is an entirely handmade natural cigar.
That's right.
You can't have a plastic tip on it and call it a premium cigar.
Yeah, and aren't flavored cigars primarily machine made?
There must be.
because
they
they're
have to.
injecting.
They are.
So they're
they are.
injecting a flavor. So there could be some distinction there in the manufacturing process, right? And they can identify that and distinguish this product
Yeah, but
from the premium cigars.
if you do that,
and legislate that.
But if you do that, there's a lot of guys who smoke machine-made
Correct.
cigars.
Yeah, that's true.
That are not flavored.
And it goes back to the
So-
slippery slope that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Sure.
The other thing too, here's a good example. Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs,
Oh, do we have to
Is
talk
the-
about him?
Oh boy.
is the biggest thing in the world right now. Is the biggest star in the world
I
right now
wonder why.
because of his Taylor Swift thing. We're not going to talk about that. On his birthday a couple weeks ago, he was photographed purchasing 2 packs of Dutch Masters at a 7-Eleven. And what is everybody saying under the comments? They're not saying, oh, he's enjoying cigars, he's smoking tobacco. They're laughing that he got caught buying Dutch Masters because he's then going to take them and put weed in them. That's what they're for.
Oh.
That's what they're for. And even you look at these comments, like everybody on these Twitter threads know that Travis Kelce's buying that not because a Dutch Master tastes great or he's going to
Mhm.
smoke them. There's another purpose to them.
Wow.
And weed is available legally, by the
And
way.
weed is
Yeah.
available everywhere. It's not
Wow.
illegal.
Wow.
So it's like it's just a crazy concept to me that this is taking down, or they're trying to take down, an industry that we so love. And I think the other point too with CAA and their fight is it's not even close to over. Every time the FDA appeals this, Senator, what do you think? Does that add 2, 3, 5 years onto the whole process?
Yeah, and millions more that they're going to have to pay in
Legal fees.
litigation.
Which
It's
then
just
comes back
ridiculous.
to us as the consumers funding that effort through the price of cigars.
Right.
Just crazy. So, boys, we're into the last third here on the Rocky Patel ALR second edition Robusto. Second half has been pretty damn good.
Not bad.
What
I
do you
will
guys
say
think?
the final
not bad.
third, I do actually think gets medium full.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think we're here now.
Rooster, this is where it actually is smoking at a strength that you would like.
It's not the strength. There is no flavor.
Did you put the cigar down? Can you cut his mic?
I might have to.
I was about to say, you just did the pooba.
Sorry.
Well, I think it's still smoking pretty smooth. It's not offensive
agree.
at all in any way. And with the spirit that we're drinking, it tastes quite nice. It's a good combo.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the pairing tonight.
I am too.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about, boys, was Cigar Aficionado put out, I guess, a report from their Cigar Insider. They did a survey of shops around the country. So we discussed a few episodes ago. I forget which episode it was, but we talked about what cigar manufacturers are being requested, what lines, and then what are actually selling. And then they also put out a report on the top selling cigar sizes in the United States by percentage. So tied for number 4 was the Churchill and the Corona at 1.2%, which is an absolute sin to me.
Agreed.
This surprised me too. The Robusto was only 13.6%. The Grande was right under 15%. Number 2, 14.8%. And number 1 was the Toro Corona Gorda at 69.2%.
Bam's favorite.
What are we doing here?
I was shocked to see the difference between the Toro Corona Gorda at 69.2 and number 2 as the
Robusto.
Grande at 14.8.
Right. But the
That
Robusto being so low,
Yeah, Robusto was number 3 on the list at 13.6.
that's shocking.
There's a 55-point swing between number 1 and number 2, between the Toro and the Grande. That is lunacy to me.
It's insanity.
Yeah,
It's America. It's all about big portions.
it is.
But it's also people trying to find value, right? Meaning, if you're going to spend a couple of bucks extra and you feel you're going to be able to smoke more,
But this is my
maybe.
problem with that. Then buy a damn Churchill.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
You know,
Agreed.
I just at a reasonable ring gauge, I hated seeing that. Honestly, I mean, I immediately questioned, like, there's no way this is true. But obviously, it makes sense. You have to believe it. I just really don't understand why people. I mean, if you think of the best cigars out there, I mean, I would even challenge even people who smoke these larger ring gauge, like the most respected, highly regarded cigars. 95% of them are not Toros.
Yeah.
Right.
You think of all the like great legendary cigars and like really an expansive list. I would struggle to think of like what would be a Toro. I mean, the Padron 50 year, that would qualify as a
Yeah.
Toro.
52, yeah. 52
Mhm.
by 6.5, I think it is.
Outside of that, I don't know a single other cigar in Toro that's
Yeah.
regarded as like one of the top. Even the ones that CA still, gives these silly 96, 97 points and named Cigar of the Year, like the Pledge prequel, that
Yeah.
wasn't a Toro. I mean, so many of these are not. I don't get it.
It'd be good to know. It'd be interesting to know how many of the purchases were made by long-term cigar smokers and novice smokers.
Well, if
And
you,
that kind of goes to what Pagoda said. If you're a newbie and you're just getting into it and you want value and you think, look, if I'm going to spend the money, let me get a bigger cigar, blah, blah, blah.
But it's clearly both because
Yeah.
who's driving volume purchases? It's people who smoke a lot.
yeah,
repeat
that's true.
customers.
This is true.
if you go to a local lounge and you look around what people are smoking, other than us, you will find most people are smoking a bigger ring gauge.
Yeah, in general.
In general.
Yeah. Well,
that's
I
true.
mean, the
So-
data certainly points to
Yeah.
that. I mean, and this also, kind of explains the thinking in Habanos, even in Cuba, the thinking of these, New World manufacturers that we smoke cigars from, why they're not putting out new cigars in ring gauges under 50. Under 52, they're putting out
They're not selling.
big ring gauge cigars. I mean, Petite Coronas, Panatellas, Lonsdales, Lanceros. I mean, those are all under 1%.
And those are such enjoyable vitolas. You're getting incredible experience.
And
It's a
in
shame.
New World and not. I mean,
Yeah.
look at how many. We did a whole block
Ah,
of long, skinny cigars, Lonsdales and Lanceros on this podcast. Arguably too many in the words of Senator, but we won't go down that road.
but they were
But-
all great.
They were all excellent.
Yeah.
I've modified my statement just enough. Just enough.
I mean, before this pod, Senator and I saw what he was smoking. He was smoking a Davidoff Millennium Petite Corona, I believe.
Yeah.
And I had the Monte Cristo Media Corona.
Corona.
Yeah.
They were both small cigars.
They
I
are.
mean, there's so much flavor out of those cigars that it's unbeatable.
That's awesome.
No, but Rooster, I think we evolved to that, right? Because I was just thinking about me going back, 20 years or so. Every time, even when I went to Nat Sherman, my preferred size to get was a Toro. And, meaning a lot of the cigars I've tried were on the larger ring gauge size and larger, and maybe subconsciously because of the value associated with it. Now that I've tried so many, I think my favorite size is the Robusto,
Yeah.
right?
Me
And
too.
so I've evolved into that, and I think it's a matter of time, maybe, or hopefully people listening to the podcast and the education, they're getting that there's more impact of
Mhm.
there are so many different, I guess, vitolas where you can actually have a more meaningful experience.
Yeah, and I think the investment of time component's important because if you're going to sit down and have 2 or 5 cigars, the Toro's probably not going to make your rotation. You're going to go for the smaller ring gauges or the shorter sizes. If you're going to have one cigar and go home, maybe the larger cigar's for you.
But the thing that I'm thinking about with a large ring gauge cigar, like we've talked about, a lot of those cigars are not densely packed. They burn pretty quickly. And a lot of the times you see it, I've seen it in many cigar lounges, even here at our lounge. Guys are throwing these cigars away at the halfway point or just coming into the last third, which a lot of the times for us on our favorite cigars, those are the best parts of the cigar, the best moments of a great cigar. So it's like if you buy a Lancero or a Corona, that you're going to get more value out of that just from the experience if you smoke it well and you smoke it down to the end.
That's
I mean,
right.
we've seen dozens of El Jefe Gordos
I
thrown
was
on
just,
the
I
lawn.
was just thinking, you stole that.
El
I was
Jefe.
like, how many were strewn at the Hotel Dylan?
Lizard Dave.
But I will say, I want to go back to something that Bam and Pagoda said that now is resonating with me. If you think of novice cigar smokers kind of early in their journey, there is this sense like I'm going back to like the very first few cigars that I bought. There is this like value equation in your head that because the price difference is not all that significant between some of the smaller ring gauge and larger ring gauge cigars. And so when you're kind of viewing this through the lens of like budget, but also something you're going to enjoy, I do remember like actually smoking a number of larger ring gauge cigars just very, very early on. And like the thought process was like, well, if this little ring gauge cigar is $11 and this bigger, much bigger cigar is $13, I mean, I feel like a fool not buying the 13. Now, the problem with that, and this is what I think you learn on that journey, and that I hope that, especially for folks who would listen to this podcast that maybe are early in their journey, what I certainly didn't realize early on, I think even many of us kind of midway through our journey didn't realize, not all vitolas of the same blend and the same cigar smoke the same. The flavor profile is not even identical.
Yep.
I mean, the fact that, like, obviously I've loved the Exclusivo since day one, but I couldn't believe, like, Gizmo, I remember, tried the Monarca, right? Basically a Lonsdale, smaller ring gauge than the Exclusivo. And it's the same blend, the 1964 anniversary series.
It's different.
Yet it tastes different. You get dried fruit in that Monarca that is completely absent from the Exclusivo. And so I think once you realize that it's not like you're looking at a line in different vitolas and they're all going to have the same flavor, exact same flavor profile. And it's just a question of, like, what's the best bang for your buck? Once you realize that that's not the case, I think that's when you then start making those conscious choices to pursue maybe a smaller cigar, knowing it's actually going to deliver something unique and different. It's not about, like, I'm getting screwed by, this smaller ring gauge at a similar price to a larger cigar.
Right. But early on, I think we all succumb to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's the investment of time in combination with what you just said.
I mean, if you can go back and remember your first cigar that you ever had, did you all smoke like a big ring gauge cigar?
I never reached for big
For
ring
me,
gauge
it was
cigars.
The Short Story by Arturo Fuente. That was my first ever cigar.
My first cigar was a Millennium Pyramid. That was my very first cigar.
So that's a pretty big.
But mouthfeel wise, it's not.
It's not
because of the pyramid.
Exactly.
Your mouthfeel on that is probably in the mid 40 ring gauge.
Right.
I mean, mine was a Robusto, the Aroma de Cuba Mi Amor in Robusto.
Right. That's still a good cigar, honestly.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, and I mean, it points to, again, understanding why so many of these brilliant cigars that we love have been discontinued. Lines that we love don't offer, the cigars and sizes that we like. I mean, even think about Davidoff, right? We love the Millennium series. We love the Robusto, especially the Pyramid. They have now the Lancero, which was discontinued, probably for the reasons we're talking about tonight. Offered now is limited edition or exclusive releases. It seems like these other kind of vitolas are only going to be kind of pop-ups.
Yeah.
Not regular offerings, which is unfortunate. I mean, even Padron. Padron's newest cigar in their Family Reserve line is a really
60.
It's like
That's
a 60
Gordo.
by it's a really big cigar.
I'm sure they're doing the research and they're moving toward the market.
Yeah.
Even Habanos is doing the same thing. They're coming up with much bigger ring gauge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at the Churchill in Habanos, there's, that legendary Sir Winston.
Mm-hmm.
There's only, 2 or 3 offerings of Churchill in the entire catalog?
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy.
I can't lie. Like the times I end up going to Carnegie, if I don't have a cigar with me, or if there are quite a few people coming, I will go to the Davidoff store, and instead of getting the Exclusivo, I'll get the Imperial, which is like the Toro.
A little bigger in
a
the
little
64
bigger.
line.
And the reason is, once again, the price differential. Instead of buying 2 Exclusivos or 3 Exclusivos, I'll buy 2 Imperials. And it just changes, it buys me some more time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know
That's a
why I
good
do
point.
it. I just do it.
Indian mentality.
Maybe.
Hey, listen.
I don't look at the price
It
as
is.
much
It is.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
value driven,
Yeah, I don't look at the price as much as I do the Vitola. For me, if I'm going to be with a group and I'm going to have 1 or 2 with them and I know they'll have 1 and leave, I'd like a bigger cigar for that experience.
Ring gauge size or length?
Both.
Okay.
Because I know that's what they're going to want to smoke and I'll, keep up with them.
Smoke slower.
Yeah.
But, to Senator's point, I mean, we experienced this with the Oliva V Lancero, which I think we rated, a 9.7, 9.6, something like that.
Incredible rating.
Incredible. You look at the Churchill, even in that same exact line, performed almost probably 20 points less or, 15 points less. So that proves your point. And the same thing in Padron 1964. I had a Diplomatico, the Churchill, in that line the other night, because I wanted something a little longer. I think it was editing a podcast or something. And I wanted something that kind of gave me an hour and a half or 2 hours of cigar. And it tastes totally different, to your point, and to what Pagoda said. It really tastes very different than the Exclusivo does, which I also feel about the Monarca, which is the Lonsdale, the Corona, which is, a 42, and the Torpedo, I think, is maybe the biggest outlier in that line as far as a difference in flavor. That the torpedo in that line in the Maduro is so different
Yeah.
than the other
4044, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good cigar.
No, I'm talking the 1964 torpedo, the one that won Cigar of the Year. But we smoked that in Maduro.
Yeah, the best example of this, even perfect example, because this is the smallest cigars you can really get from Padron. Most of us, obviously not all of us, don't love the regular 1926 line in Padron. It packs a bit too much nicotine and strength for a lot of us.
Yep.
The 1926 number 35, that
What a great
little
cigar.
short
Oh,
smoke,
that's a great little
is
cigar.
universally loved in this room. It's an incredible smoke. Yet if you were to hand most of us any of the other vitolas in the 1926 line, none of us would want it. And
Right.
so, like, it's a perfect example of like just the ratio is just perfect for our palate. It happens to be a smaller cigar, and that arguably smokes better than any of those other vitolas. And I just think people don't know that and haven't experienced that enough to really understand why they might want to pursue a smaller ring gauge sometimes.
And that goes back to the concept of that novice cigar smoker. And it would be great to know who's buying what.
Yeah.
Somehow.
And also, for the listeners out there, if you find something in a line at whatever ring gauge, if it's super small or it's the Gordo that we're talking about, or some of these lines are producing 70s and 80 ring gauge cigars now, if you like something and it's kind of giving you what you want, explore the other vitolas in that same line, like we're talking about. I mean, you might really find something that's a home run where the sister cigars to it might not be doing it for you, or giving you 100% of that. And I think, again, that Oliva V. Lancero really points to that theory.
Sorry, all I'm thinking about is really wanting to light up a 1926 number 35. And the reason I say this,
They're so good, man.
well, the odd thing, so the price on those like dramatically started to increase.
Yeah, they're
and now I
expensive
can't
now.
even imagine what it is.
It's your fault.
So I stopped buying them and I stopped smoking them because at that, again, I guess this is where the value comes in. I mean, that's a small cigar, right? We have found other short smokes that are a fraction of that price.
Isn't it like $12?
No,
Oh
it's
no,
more than
now
that.
it's more.
Really?
Yeah,
It's probably 16.
yeah,
That's
I think so.
outrageous.
And that's
it's
a
a
little
small smoke.
that's a little petite Corona.
Yeah,
Right.
that's an end of evening cigar.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you think of any of the other short smokes we buy, like they're all like $5 to $10 basically. They're not much more than that. And so I just realized I have not lit that cigar since we've been at this lounge, which is now what, 3 years?
At
Yeah.
least.
Yep.
Right? I have, so I mean, I think the 1926 line has 5 years of age.
Mhm.
So I've got a whole box that's sitting there now with an additional 3 years at least, because I probably bought it even a year before that. So probably another 4 years. So that's like 9 years right now.
There you
I'm
go.
pretty
Oh,
excited to
yeah.
try one of these.
We
He's
are
rubbing
too.
it. He's for the listener. He's rubbing his hands together over there.
We're also excited.
Bring 7 cigars. No, I'm in the same boat. I have not reached for that cigar for how delicious it is. I haven't reached for it in a long time. I think because a lot of the time I'm finishing my evening with, I'll start Cuban, I'll move to Dominican or Nicaraguan tobacco, and then I'll finish with a short Cuban like the half Corona or some of the other ones that we've done on the podcast, or the Monte Cristo that Rooster mentioned earlier. But yeah, that's a great evening
Yeah.
finisher, especially.
Mhm.
We're talking about it now, guys. It's cold out. It's going to get chilly. That is a great winter cigar, the Padron 1935, especially with some sort of higher proof bourbon or rye whiskey
It's
like we're
a
drinking tonight.
robust cigar, and it'll hold up to the outdoor elements.
Yeah, I just looked up the price for it. It's $315 for a box. now.
Wow.
So it's $12.60.
12, but that's in bulk. So if you're buying singles, you're definitely going to be closer to 14 or 16
Yeah.
for a
I wasn't
cigar that's
far
what,
off.
3.5
this
inches
is
long.
also on VIP price on
Yeah,
Atlantic.
Atlantic VIP. Yeah, it's a great value there. All right, boys. So we're coming to the end of our evening here. Any thoughts on the pairing with the Hillrock Rye Whiskey and the Rocky Patel ALR?
I think nice overall.
Yeah, I'm happy.
No complaints?
I'm very satisfied with how the cigar rounded out toward the end. I'm much happier with that than where it started, but really no complaints for me. And I think the pairing was very nice as well.
I mean, I have some complaints with the cigar, but I'll get into that in my rating. But the one thing I will say positively, the last third was the best part of it for me. If it would have been that all the way through, I would have scored it higher.
Yeah. And the last third, it does ramp up, and the Hillrock pairs very nicely in the stretch.
All right, boys. So let's do the formal liquor rating on the Hillrock Rye Whiskey sent in by very kind listener Lizard Elias. Bam Bam, you're up.
Yes, sir. Do we know how much that bottle is?
I think it's
let
not
me-
cheap.
Let me look at this on Total Wine.
It's not cheap.
Yeah, this is not a cheap bottle. It's $120 a bottle.
Oof. Wow. Thank you. Thank you,
that-
Lizard Elias.
That's quite the gift.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, that's very kind, man. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah, so that it's the price is tough. You know, I have to say, with a good handful of ice, it's very drinkable. With our pairing, it was quite delicious. You know, I don't want to be too hard on it, but that price is really
That's a high price.
that's tough.
You're supporting a local business, Bam.
This is true. I'll give it a 7.
Okay.
I'll give it a 7.
And the other thing we should keep in mind, why the price has got to be so high, everything is done on their estate.
And it's small batch, I'm
Right.
guessing, right?
Yep. Yep.
I'm sticking with a 7.
All right. Pagoda.
Yeah, you wouldn't be allowed to change that anyway.
Nope, and I won't.
He was ready to get you, man.
I considered it.
No, I think I'll give it a 7 as well. I think it's very kind of the listeners who have sent it. It's a testament to the community we're building as well, right?
Mhm.
And it's fantastic. And I hope the listeners can try a little bit of both the pairings together. Like it did work well with the cigar.
It really did.
But having said that, I felt that it definitely needed ice, obviously because of the high proof. I enjoyed it in the beginning. I felt it was really cleansing my palate for a certain amount of time, and it's a recommend. The price is, I think, beyond my price range. I would put it this way for this particular drink. I think a 7 to fair score.
Senator.
I'm in the exact same boat. I think the pairing worked extremely well with the cigar, so I'm very happy that we did this. The flavor, I liked a lot of the flavor notes that you get out of this rye, and I especially appreciated, again, a lot of ryes tend to be spicier, and I didn't get that. I actually like that they did this double cast that kind of balanced that out with some sweet
Mhm.
notes. And again, I'm not someone, I mean, I don't have a single bottle of rye in my bar, period. And this was one of the more enjoyable ryes I've had. The price point is a bit problematic. I mean, I say that because Whistle Pig 10-year, which is kind of regarded as like the gold standard of
Yeah.
like a really good quality rye.
And it's quite tasty, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's significantly less. It's like 70 a bottle usually for
Mhm.
Whistle Pig.
That's
So
right.
that would preclude me from probably, pursuing this with any regularity. But if I was at someone's house and they poured me a glass of this with ice, I would definitely drink it again. I wouldn't have any complaints. So for me, it's a solid 7. And I think for probably a more experienced rye drinker, this may score higher. I'm not all that experienced with rye. And so for me, it's a 7.
So I agree with everything you guys said. The one thing I will say about this versus some of the other ryes that we've had on the podcast and other ryes that I've had, I actually found this to be a more pleasurable drink because it didn't hit me with
I have
that.
a whole thing to talk about when you're done.
Didn't hit me with
Yeah.
that spice.
Yeah.
The price point is questionable. Obviously, we didn't purchase this bottle tonight, but the flavor of the rye, it's definitely one of the better ryes that I've had from my palate. And I think with a cigar, I think actually it paired perfectly. So I think if I'm sitting at home sipping something, I'm not going to reach for this. But if I'm having a Nicaraguan cigar or a Dominican cigar, I think this pairs very well. So I'm actually going to go with an 8 on this. I'm very comfortable with that score despite the price. I really actually enjoyed the ride tonight. The thing that I will say too is I didn't sip this till quite a bit into the pod. We started, I don't think we even talked about this till about 40 minutes in. So mine sat with ice. I didn't sip it without. So maybe I should have, but where it was when I started drinking it was pleasurable the whole way through. So it's an 8 for me. And that, boys, brings the formal liquor rating on the Hillrock Double Cask Rye Whiskey to a 7.3.
Okay. It's a
So
recommend.
that's a recommend.
Yeah, it's a recommend.
Absolutely.
What's ironic about this is the price, because it drinks like what a novice whiskey or scotch drinker would want to try if they're going to try a rye for the first time, because it's so easy to drink with ice. Because without, you need to be a really seasoned rye guy, and it packs a punch. The price, though, it just makes it out of reach for a lot of first-time rye guys.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
ironic
there's no
because
question about that.
it drinks like what a rye would drink for a novice, and they would enjoy it. I enjoyed it.
It's true. I will also say I'm glad we're doing this time of year, because when I just think of like, where would I drink this? This is great in the fall and winter. Like
Yes.
I'm imagining after like a Thanksgiving meal, having a glass of this, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Angel's Envy Rye I think goes for 90, which is which is a pretty I guess a reasonable rye to be drinking. And I really like the Angel's Envy Rye, and that's you're talking about $30 cheaper, which
Yeah.
what it is 25%
Yeah.
lower in price.
Yeah.
So
All right.
All right, boys, you ready to do the formal lizard rating tonight on the Rocky Patel ALR second edition Robusto? Here we go.
Connoisseur Corner.
Michael Myers, you're up.
Connoisseur Corner's teed up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've yet to find a Rocky Patel that has wowed me, and this still, I mean, I'm still searching. So, if there's any listener recommendations to try another Rocky Patel, I would be happy to do that. Having said that, I mean, the cigar was kind of one-dimensional for me. It didn't really change much. It's not in my wheelhouse. I didn't quite get the notes that you guys were talking about. I didn't get any cocoa. I mean, I was just getting some white pepper. So my rating on this cigar, it's a very generous 6.
Wow.
generous.
Generous. I'm
Are you-
being generous.
So are you going to get the meat cleaver now and just walk around with it?
We're going to be packing up the gear tonight, and Rooster's just going to be standing outside with the Michael Myers mask on and the overalls. Senator, you're
boy.
up.
So I think this is tough. I'm between two scores.
Can change. Be careful.
I know. I really do have to be careful here. Yeah, I know where I am. It's a 6 for me. I say that because it's just not a cigar that I would recommend. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't give this to anybody, even a novice cigar smoker. I think my frustration with it is that the flavors are muddled for a lot of it. There are notes in there that I typically appreciate. It's just that none of them are overly pronounced. I had to really wait until the final third to kind of pick up in strength to a place that I felt was more in my comfort zone for a Nicaraguan cigar. But I mean, like Rooster, it's like the temptation to put it down was definitely there in the first half. So I would never pursue it. The merits, I will say, it's well constructed, good looking cigar once you get that giant footband off. The combustion was great. And it's just a shame because the flavor notes that are there, if they could just blend this in a way to really accentuate those more and bring them out more, this would get a 7 or an 8 from me. But because it just feels too muted and at many times muddled, I've got to give it a 6.
Okay. So I'm going to give the cigar a 7. And I'll tell you why. I think, number one, I think a lot of New World cigars that have been mediocre or below that, call them poor on this podcast, they start decently or poorly in the first third, and then through the second third and last third, they take a nosedive. Like the plane goes right into the mountain. Okay? What I liked about this is I'm sensing that this is intentional. I'm sensing that what Rocky and his team did on this was try to give you a little bit of a journey, which I think we all experienced, that it picked up in that last third as opposed to diving. And I thought that even though it didn't give me what I normally am looking for in a Nicaraguan cigar, I do think it delivered a pretty decent experience tonight. I would give this to novice smokers. I would give this to folks who like a mild cigar and say, hey, can you give me something a little more than that? I liked that the first 2/3 were medium, bordering on medium full in the last third. So I can't complain about it for how much I would love to join Rooster and his Michael Myers, hacksaw stabbing approach, putting it down. But, seriously, I think that it was intentional, and I think what Rocky intended to do in this cigar, he did. So for me, it's a 7. Pagoda.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I did smoke quite a few of these, earlier.
No peer pressure.
No peer pressure, but I'll rate it a 7, and I was very happy that Rooster did not, just put off the cigar in the first couple of minutes. That's what I was a bit worried about.
He almost didn't come tonight. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but having said that, I thought the flavors were very, very muted. And I was debating between a 6 and 7 throughout the cigar. For me, I felt that towards the end, it was very peppery for me. I did get muted notes of cocoa. And at one point in time, I felt a little bit of bitterness, and I don't know whether it could be attributed to coffee or dark chocolate. I couldn't really. And maybe it's slightly muddled. Yeah, I think 7 is a generous score, using Rooster's word over there. But yeah, it's like a soft recommend. Not something I'm going to go and buy again.
Okay. Bam.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I was thinking an 8 coming out of you.
No.
All right. I'm going to give it a 7. And what I said earlier, I would give this to a novice cigar smoker because, if I give him a Padron, like we said earlier, it could hit him with a hammer. This is a great lower middle market cigar that I think works for a lot of people. And I think, like you said, it's intentional. 7. I had no rough edges at all. It was one-dimensional, maybe slightly muddled, but still fairly enjoyable cigar.
I don't know if muddled is the right word for me. I think muted or toned down.
Toned down. That's a great word.
I don't think there was no confusion as far as what I was getting, how I was getting it. So it was just kind of like the volume knob was turned down a little bit on the cigar from what I'd expect from this kind of blend Nicaraguan, but
nothing to hate.
Nothing to hate.
No, I think muddled in the sense that the notes were not distinguishable. That's where I'm at. I couldn't pick. They weren't very distinct. Like I couldn't say, well, I'm getting a lot of cocoa. I'm getting a lot of this, a lot of that. It wasn't that. So that to me is kind of like muddled or muted or whatever.
And I typically like the San Andres wrapper. Because
we all do.
Yeah. So there is some merit to that, but I do think that the pairing really enhanced the cigar. I felt
that's true.
I really enjoyed the cigar after I think the pairing with it. So I think that might have pushed it from a 6 to a 7 at some point. Yeah.
So the former Lizard Rating Boys on the Rocky Patel ALR second edition Robusto is a 6.6, which I think is the right score for this.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think it's perfect.
I think Freddy Krueger would love the cigar.
Michael Myers did not.
Yes, that's true.
All right, boys. So a good pairing tonight. Not great for our Halloween spooktacular. Did we spook you, Rooster?
I'm spooked for life.
So
I think we're going to try the Gordo next.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to do that next week, actually.
Do you remember that there were times early on when we met Pagoda and we were all kind of trading cigars? And I remember Rooster gave Pagoda some cigar, probably a Cuban.
Yes.
And Pagoda wanted to give him something back. And he's like, well, this is all I have. And he handed him an ALR. And the look on Rooster's face, if I had a photograph of that, was incredible.
That was
I think I gave him an 898.
Oh, my God. No.
All right, boys. So on the Hillrock Double Cask Rye Whiskey was a 7.3, and the Rocky Patel cigar tonight, the ALR second edition Robusto, was a 6.6. Good hanging with you all. Happy Halloween, and we'll see everybody next week. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for joining us. You can find our merch store and ratings archive at our brand new website, loungelizardspod.com. That's loungelizardspod.com. Don't forget to leave us a rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to reach out, say hello, tell us what you're smoking, email us, hello@loungelizardspod.com. You can also find us on Instagram @loungelizardspod. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.